Before we start, we need to tell you up front we are not a licensed financial planning, accounting or law firm. This is simply an education program which will give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice around finance, business, investing, options trading or anything else. That is not what this presentation does. Please see a licensed financial planner when it comes to any investment advice you need.
One of the things that I've found, and I'm going to adopt as a father of four, who their ages are from 1 to 11, all right? So they all have various different needs at those age brackets, is that you put out a lot of fires. How many of you parents know what I mean? All right? So one's fighting with his sister and this sort of stuff, and you're trying to get peace back. You got one who needs a nappy change. So you can get caught up in parenting, putting out all these little fires. Who knows what I'm talking about? That's how the world has been of late. All these little fires going on, people doing this, doing that. So what I want to do today is pull back and go, whew, let's catch our breath. Let's see what's really going on. Because there's more than... I used to work in the media. I worked in the media for 14 years. There's more that what's going on than the media are telling you. How many of you were aware of that? Right? I just did an interview with a Pfizer whistleblower and got Senator Malcolm Roberts on the interview as well. It's going really viral on the internet right now. And what she had to say, what's going on in that organisation was really, really interesting. So we've got to question the narrative. And today I'm going to stretch the narrative even to another part. You're going to see the pastoral side of me a little bit. Okay, I'm going to talk about spiritual things as well. Because what we're facing is bigger than just might, power, nations. There's a lot going on. All right? Can you go there with me? All right, cool. So I've entitled the presentation today, What on Earth is Going On? Is a recession inevitable? Now, I must confess that when Connor asked me, will you speak on recessions? I was kind of like, oh. And Travis asked me some months ago on radio, he said, do you think Australia will go into a recession? And he stumped me because I hadn't even given it a thought. An absolute thought. So I thought about it for a while, and this is my response. Well, even if Australia does have a recession, I'm not going to be participating in it. Not taking the invitation, not accepting the invitation at all. Okay? Not interested. Not going to go there. Because the problem is with recessions is people go on a back foot. Right? And I look at it and go, there's opportunity in anything. So where's the opportunity in whatever's being faced? All right? Sound good? All right, so let's have a look. This is not specific or general advice, it is factual only. A recession technically is 2 financial quarters where negative gross domestic product, or GDP as we call it, occurs. That's the technical definition of a recession, okay? So if you want to get really technical, when people ask what's a recession, that's what it is. 2 financial quarters have to be negative gross GDP, okay? So I was quite surprised when I started researching this. I didn't realise that we had a recession in 2020. Okay? Who didn't know that? I was digging around going, oh, did we? And I realised what happened was I made a ton of money at that time. And I was too busy processing it all and thinking it. Now, this is my view, is I have the favour of God in my life. And I don't say that bragging as there anything like, wow, I'm special. You too, you can have that too, right? So you can walk through life with the favour of God in your life, and it doesn't matter what happens in the world and the economic circumstances, you can prosper, right? And so I was prospering at this time when we were having a technical recession. I was like, oh. And I pointed out to my wife and I just started cracking up. Now, my biggest problem this year is, of course, having done the tax returns, is I miscalculated how much tax I owed. And I'm going, oh my goodness, I've had to find cash flow to pay for that tax bill. What a great problem to have, right? We can get it wrong sometimes. But that's how it happens. In June 2022, the Australian economy rose 0.9% in seasonally adjusted chain volume measures. GDP rose 3.9% in 2021-2022. The terms of trade rose 4.6%. Household saving ratio decreased to 8.7 to 11.1. In other words, people aren't saving as much as they were. I'm not surprised. Restrictions are gone, so people are out spending more. People were afraid, weren't going out. Let's stash some away. Very common human behaviour. There's no surprises there. As traders, what we look for to predict, and this is a really good nugget for you, all right? what we do as traders, if we want to see if a recession's on the way, is we look for what we call an inverted yield curve on bonds to see if a recession is looming. Now, what does that mean? Let me give you the technical on that. What is an inverted yield curve? Investopedia is a great resource for all these technical terms and jargon. If you ever want to look into stuff, use Investopedia. It's a great resource. An inverted yield curve shows that long-term interest rates are less than short-term interest rates. With an inverted yield curve, the yield decreases the further away the maturity date is. Sometimes referred to as a negative yield curve, the inverted curve has proven in the past to be a reliable indicator of a recession. Now, what does that mean? Let me show you. Okay, so you see these here? These are the Australian bonds right now. I'm going to go off camera so you can see. So what it's saying is, you would think that as an investor, if you bought a 1-year investment, you would like a further reward if you went 10 years out of 30%. You like bigger percent for your money, right? Yeah? Because you're locking your money up for a longer period of time. Make sense? All right? So right now, this is a shot from yesterday. The 1-year maturity there is 3.2%. Compare that to the 5-year at 3.38%. Compare that to the 10-year at 3.85%. Compare that to the 20-year 3.99%, and the 30-year at 3.95%. Interestingly, the 20-year gets a bigger yield than the 30-year at the moment. Bit of an anomaly. But as a general observation, you are noticing that the majority, the sooner they expire, the smaller the yield, correct? Make sense? What happens if we start seeing that reverse, where the longer term ones go less than the shorter term ones? You get an inverted yield curve, okay? The yield curve currently looks like, whoops, I went too far. No, I want to go back. Back. There it is. That's the current Australian yield curve at the moment, right? But if it's an inverted yield curve, it looks like this, like that. Okay, so it would go up here and down like that. Okay, so that's one indicator we use as traders to see, is there an indicator that a recession's looming? Who finds that interesting? Okay, so that's one of the techniques we use in doing that, and it's been very, very accurate. It was doing that in March 2020, and my business partner, our head trader, is going, this doesn't make sense, this market. Why is it doing this? And then bang, COVID happened. And we cleaned up. We absolutely cleaned up. Now, normally I'm asked to talk about trading and stuff like that. I'm not going to do so much of that today. I'm going to do more about pulling back, as I said, and seeing what's going on in the world. Just a little bit more on this whole recession thing. Australia's labour market is strong, needing workers. I think that's one of the positives Australia's got going for it. Many mandates against the unvaccinated have been dropped, particularly like in the nursing sector and that. They're going back to work, helping an exhausted workforce. Okay, that's great for all Australians. Our unemployment rate has dropped from 3.5% in September to 3.6% in October. It's the lowest level in 48 years. So Australia is managed to dodge the bullet with so many recessions worldwide, okay? And that's a good thing. The thing that is hurting us at the moment is this inflation thing, okay? But everybody's feeling that across the globe, okay? Everybody's feeling that. And what is inflation? It's the increased cost of purchasing goods and services and the devaluation of the purchase power of money over time. So it's twofold, okay? Am I going too fast for you? We all good? All right, there are 3 things that affect the stock market: politics, economy, and interest rates. Sometimes you can look and do all the fundamentals of stock, you think this is a great buy, and then something, for some reason, makes that stock do something crazy, and you go, why? It's often because of these 3 factors. You could probably put a 4th in called a black swan event, e.g., COVID, right? Those, or September 11. Those kind of events are a black swan event, but generally these 3 things are interrelated when it comes to the stock market, and it's fascinating how they relate. Now, we've talked so far on interest rates. Bonds are related to interest rates, okay? So I've been showing you and demonstrating to you how that affects the economy. The other one is the economy affecting the stock market. We've talked about COVID. We talked about inflation. Those are economic factors. The big one at the moment is politics. That is skewing the entire world's economies right now with some crazy politics going on. So I'm sure you're all aware of what's been going on and stuff like that. Let's dive into it and what it actually looks like. But before I do that, I want to go into, and this is not working now. Travis, can you help me out? How did we get this way? You have been living in a world that is not normal. Everything you've grown up and thought about economy and money is not normal. We live in a very different society. There are two types of economies in the world. Our current economy is called the Babylonian system, okay? Why Babylonian? Because it was formed in Babylon, ancient Babylon. There's another one called, some call it the preferred economy, and I'm going to get into why the differences are, what the differences are. But I want to look at the Babylonian system firstly. It was formed by this guy called Nimrod. Nimrod was Cush was the father of Nimrod. He became a mighty warrior in the earth. He was a mighty warrior before the Lord. That is why it's called, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. The first centers of his kingdom were, there you go, Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, Calneh, and in China, and there's another list of what he did. He was a conqueror, right? He is against the Lord. Early Jewish historian Josephus writes of Nimrod, he persuaded them not to ascribe it to God as if it were his means they were happy, but to believe that it was their own courage which procured that happiness. He also gradually changed the government into tyranny, seeing no other way of turning men from the fear of God, but to bring them into a constant dependence on his power. So he's got tyranny in his government and he wants them dependent on him. He also said he would be revenged on God if he should have a mind to drown the world again. For that he would build a tower too high for the waters to reach. He is attributed to having built the Tower of Babel, okay? And because of the floods, he was saying, I want to get up above, lest that happen again, but it's by my power. And what's interesting about him, he marries a woman called Semiramis, who is a prostitute. It's not cool for a ruler to say, I married a prostitute, so they made a myth of her, saying that she was a goddess that ascended from the waters, okay? She, in her marriage with him, rules over the people and puts in a religious construct to rule over the people. And we have had the truth twisted through that, and we have inherited this system in all sectors of society, all mountains of cultural influence in society, and especially in the world of finance and politics. Now let me show you how this plays out.
Years, it's not that we'll destroy ourselves in some calamity. Much more likely, we will use advanced technology, biotechnology, nanotechnology, direct brain-computer interfaces to upgrade Homo sapiens into different kinds of beings which are different from us, much more than we are different from Neanderthals, beings which will have different bodies, different minds, different brains. I mean, the big products of the coming century will not be shoes or clothes or cars or weapons. The big product of the 21st century are going to be bodies and minds. So I think we are heading towards the upgrading of Homo sapiens into gods. Will replace natural selection by intelligent design.
Oh wow, sounds wonderful, doesn't it? It just makes it sound so wonderful. That spirit of Babylon is right there. You see the connection? It's still rampant today. It ain't gone anywhere. It's just been amplified now. And if you look at the current financial system we're in, it operates in fractions. The preferred economy, right, operates in multiples. When I understood this changed my trading completely. I had been mentored by my traders to trade in multiples. You hear financial planners talk about, a 3-5% return for your investment is a great result. But I studied it, and I was mentored by a guy called Dave Hodgson, who is the CEO of the Paladin Group, a billion-dollar company in Australia. He teaches this. I consider him one of my mentors, and started showing me this. We have to operate in multiples. So you go to a farm and you plant a seed and you reap 100-fold. That is a divine order principle, right? How many of you'd like to see your money operate like that? Okay? You can. You look at the current system. Wealth is made by toil. Wealth is made under the blessing. I gave you an example of myself. When everything's going on, I had the favor of God in my life to actually multiply in tough economic times, all right? It stops you getting ahead with taxes. Oh, this system, the preferred economy, was designed without taxes. Can you imagine an economic system that has no taxes? That's how it was meant to be. Charges interest on loans. Never charge interest on loans to a fellow Jew. Fellow Jew never charge interest to their fellow Jew. It was meant to help them out, to give them a leg up or a start, right? Whereas the current financial system give you a loan. Mortgage means to death if you look at the ancient word, and it actually means we want you our slave till death. if you want to get real technical about it, okay? Don't use the word mortgage. Don't call your home loan a mortgage, because what you speak really influences your outcomes, okay? Incremental progress in the current financial system. Somebody can work for 20 years on a board, try to get to for a company and try to get on the board. I have seen unprecedented progress since I've been applying this system, where in one day, bang, accelerated. Can save 20 years trying to figure it out. Tries to take advantage of people, the current financial system. The preferred economy seeks to help other people out. The current financials tries to get competitors out of business. The problem with that is you get your competitor out of business, you end up paying for them anyway when they're on welfare, okay? Whereas everybody can prosper. Everybody. It's much smarter to play with your competitors and play fair and work with them than against them. All right? How many business owners do we have in the room? Fantastic. All right. Tries to seek to control and rule over people, often using fear. I have remembered a time when I worked in this office. This guy had a net worth of about $64 million, and people would go into his office one after the other, cowering as he boomed at them, right? Go outside to the lobby, and he's there on the phone booming down. He ruled with fear, whereas the preferred economy offers freedom and peace. Who's learned something so far? All right? Who would prefer to be in the preferred economy as opposed to your current financial system? But how many of you have actually said, oh, I want things just to go back to the way they were? It was never normal in 2019 and prior to that. Okay? It's been skewed because you've grown up thinking it was normal. What on earth is going on? Well, let's have a look. You have nations who want sovereignty. We call them sheep nations. And there are others who want imperialism and empires, and we call them goat nations. All right? And, there is satanic links to that when you look at the symbol of the goats and stuff like this, all right? Sheep nations want their own sovereignty and respect the sovereignty of others, all right? This is our borders. This is our boundaries. This is how we self-determine the way we rule. We respect what you want to do. Goat nations are into the grab for power, other nations, borders and wealth, and the beast system. What do I mean by the beast system? I'll get to that. Globalists want a one world government, have you on a system of economic control. We've all heard it. You'll own nothing and be happy. Well, who are you to tell me what I'm supposed to have? Who the heck are you to tell me what's good for me? Yeah? What arrogance. Central governments, digital passports, medical to control freedom of movement. Digital payments control the ability to buy and sell. Here's the hot topic right now. Government-issued cryptocurrencies known as central bank digital currencies or CBDCs. It's the beast system. What do I mean by this? All the clues are in Scripture in the Bible. It tells you, it's been saying this for decades, for centuries. He calls us all both, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, this is the beast, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one that is a mark with the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man is the number 666. A lot of people are interpreting this, that microchipping is what is expected in terms of exchange and all that coming on the horizon. 6 months ago, I was shocked when I was in our law firm and discovered that one of the employees there was microchipped. He told me, I've got 2 microchips in me. It's happening here in Perth. I was gobsmacked. My business partner started laughing at me because my jaw hit the floor. And I wish I'd asked him, and you think of these things 24 hours, I was so much shock. I wish I asked him, well, why? Why did you do that? But I was in shock at the time, like, what? I've heard about this, and there's someone sitting right in front of me. He's microchipped. And he says, my friends call me a cyborg. Wake up. Here's what the current president of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, had to say on CBDCs.
Where do we stand? We central bankers, we have been operating as a monetary anchor in relation to the commercial banks and the private money. If we are not in that game, if we are not involved in experimenting, in innovating in terms of digital central bank money, we risk losing the role of anchor that we have played for many, many decades. And we have historical examples of period where the central bank monetary anchor was not there, and that precipitated crisis after crisis. That certainly was the case at the time of the free banking in the 19th century. Do we want to go back to those days? Probably not. I would say certainly not from our vantage point, as a result of which we have to respond to the demand for those digital payments in order to maintain the role of anchor that we have been playing regularly.
Says a lot. They're scared of losing relevancy, right? They've had the game so long, they want it. Lance Warnew, I'm going to give him credit for a lot of this. He's probably the best. I saw a video of his the other day. He puts the best perspective on what's actually going on. He sums it up well. He says, in Europe, Brussels dominates the EU, and you had the World Economic Forum warning the Great Reset and had the dominant currency. With Brexit, the UK got out. All right, that was bad for the EU. The war in Ukraine and Russia is pressuring to drag the UK back into European affairs. They want to get them back in, right? Want to get them back in. Russia is the globalist thorn in the side, all right? Russia is all about sovereignty. Don't believe what the media is telling you about Russia. And I'm not here to say the Russians are the good guys and the Ukrainians are the bad guys. I'm not taking sides. I'm saying there's more to the narrative than the mainstream are telling you, all right? And you've got to be aware of that. Look past it. Putin looks at the West and doesn't like LGBTQ, transgenderism, abortion, sees that as a road to destruction for Russia. He goes, how's that working out for you, West? What is going on in the United States right now? That ain't working out for you. And he's going with historic Christian nationalism, which is his version of restoring the glory of the old Russia, all right? Putin is doing this. There's a lot of reports coming out that he has found biomedical weapon labs in the Ukraine at the moment. Now, you think about it from a Russian perspective, all right? Would you want that on your border with NATO pushing them and your cousins, if you look back in the history of Ukraine and Russia, you know, they're wanting to go, we want to go more with the West. And we're going, hang on a second, the border is getting closer and closer to his border. Can you see it from a Russian perspective? What's going on here? Nobody in the media is presenting that at all, right? The question with Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni, she's a firehouse. Will she lead Italy out of the European Union? The European Union economically are in trouble, and does Italy want to be hurt like the UK was? I mean, they're looking at UK, they got out, EU's not doing so well. We see the problems when Greece went bankrupt and it pulled all the European Union down, all the nations like Germany and prosperous ones. They're going, hang on a second, do we want to be dragged into this? If she does, will it be game over for the EU? The globalists may try to label her as a Christian nationalism, all right? They love to discredit the media.
Questo si chiama franco CFA. È la moneta coloniale che la Francia stampa per 14 nazioni africane, alle quali applica il signoraggio e in forza delle quali sfrutta le risorse di questa nazione. Questo è un bambino che lavora in una miniera d'oro in Burkina Faso. Il Burkina Faso è una delle nazioni più povere del mondo. Per il Burkina Faso, che ha l'oro, la Francia stampa moneta coloniale. In cambio pretende che finiscano nelle casse del tesoro francese il 50% di tutto quello che il Burkina Faso esporta. L'oro che questo bambino si infila in un cunicolo per tirare fuori finisce per lo più nelle casse dello Stato francese. Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa, la soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
Anybody Italian here? Fantastic. Wow. Well, I love this lady. Look at it. This is her before she became the leader of Italy.
Diritto fondamentale dell'uomo. Pensi la stessa cosa che ho capito io. E io gli austriaci non capiamo niente. L'Australia dice, per bocca del ministro dell'interno australiano, non mi sembra neanche l'Australia un governo così razzista, non firmeremo alcun documento che non è nel nostro interesse nazionale. E non è nel nostro interesse nazionale delegare la nostra politica di protezione delle frontiere alle Nazioni Unite. La Polonia dice: è assai probabile che la Polonia, sull'esempio delle altre, non farà parte del patto globale perché le nostre regole, i nostri principi sovrani concernenti la protezione delle frontiere sono una priorità. Lo dicono i governi di mezzo mondo, l'hanno capito tutti.
Onorevole Scalfarotto, onorevole Meloni, lei si rivolga a me, onorevole Scalfarotto, lei taccia perché ha fatto già il suo intervento.
L'abbiamo capito noi, l'ha capito mezzo mondo, il punto qual è? Lo capiscono anche loro. Lo capiscono bene. Il Migration Compact è esattamente quello che serve a chi ha utilizzato l'immigrazione irregolare in questi decenni per coronare il grande disegno della speculazione finanziaria di privare i nazioni e i popoli della loro identità, perché
che quando non hai più radici sei schiavo e quando sei schiavo fai gli interessi di Soros. E queste persone purtroppo a quello guardano. E quindi noi abbiamo letto bene il Migration Compact e continuiamo a chiedere al governo di avere una posizione chiara.
God protect that woman, hey? Okay? She is a disruption in the globalist plans and agenda. All right. Then we've got over in Israel, I love saying his surname, try it with Peter Putter or something. Benjamin Netanyahu is back as Prime Minister. This is a huge move. Israel is one of these small nations. You got to watch what's happening to Israel. Israel is God's favored nation. You got to watch Israel, right? Israelites are nervous about Iran, and Benjamin is perceived as strong, so he's back. They elected him back in to the system, right? He's a good guy, all right? Sheep nation, all right? Putting them back in, giving Israel what is right for Israel, defending the Israelites. In South America, this is really huge. South and Central are largely going communist. And here you have Brazil has had an electronic election and they're claiming electronic fraud. This is huge. Bolsonaro was their president, wanted to get rid of the machines, attempting to put in Lulu, that's his nickname, who did prison time for embezzlement, in as president, and the people have been protesting by the millions. Bolsonaro is ex-military and the military like him. They attempted a military audit of the election and were blocked by the military commission, the Electoral Commission. Two camps in the military. This is what Lance Warner is saying. Let Lulu stay. The powers to be want to avoid civil war because they'll lose their power. All right? The corrupt government doesn't want him to come in. Leave it as it is. We're all in jobs. Or the other part of the military take their evidence of election fraud to the corrupt Supreme Court who put this Lulu guy in and demand election reform. You watch this space. There is a battle going on for Brazil. China's looking at Taiwan, as we know, and wondering how will the US respond. That Biden guy, the Biden, is he strong enough? What's he going to do? Would the Biden take them on? Will the US economy collapse? That's what they're waiting for. Taiwan produces 50% of the world's microchips, okay? China wants economic and military supremacy across Asia and the East. If you have the microchip, you have technological and military power and advantage. China has huge influence and access to many African nations already and has been doing so for a long time as they create that trade belt across the Indian Ocean. South America is now in their sights and Bolsonaro in Brazil has been stopping them. All right? So it's really interesting in watching this space. Brazil is absolute key. In the US, the fraudulent elections, I'm going to say what it is, has been the contentious issue. The Democrats have had their agenda about killing the fossil fuel industry. This whole climate change thing is bahoo. Yes, we look after the environment. We're all agreeance on this, but this is about politics, okay? It's all about control. This is what they're trying to do. Congress passed a huge $1 billion bill to move and have electrical EV stations across America. The oil companies said, we got to grab this money because we don't, we'll become dinosaurs. So they walked away from their oil fields and stopped producing. That's why there's an oil shortage. It's not because of a European war, okay? That's the real reason, because the America stopped fracking oil, okay? And the globalists use COVID and climate change as the agenda to shut you down, restrict your movements, freedoms, and push you towards a herd behaviour to accept the CBDC. They've been indoctrinating the masses with this ideology and propaganda for decades and have been doing it in our education systems to our kids. The globalists have attempted to infiltrate the US government and Australia too. Australia clearly has links with the World Economic Forum. I don't have time to show you footage of former Prime Minister Scott Morrison being interviewed at the World Economic Forum, but he has also been openly asked about the World Health Organization, and in fact Senator Malcolm Roberts has been continually calling them out on it. I spoke to him recently in an interview, but I love what he has to say here. He just says it as it is.
Thank you. In a previous speech I called for Australia to reject the World Economic Forum's Great Reset and instead mount a Great Resist. These were not idle words. Video is circulating online of World Economic Forum crook and mastermind Klaus Schwab bragging about penetrating the cabinets of Western democracies with his young global leaders. Some Klaus Schwab disciples are in this Senate and one is in the cabinet. How this has not triggered a national security investigation is beyond one nation. We certainly would be taking a much closer look given the coordination we are seeing in the policies being enacted by WEF disciples like Jacinda Ardern and Justin Trudeau. One nation will resist the transfer of wealth from everyday Australians to predatory billionaires. This was the inevitable and deliberate outcome of profligate government COVID spending that the Liberals, Nationals, Labor and Greens waved through this parliament. One Nation will resist exposing our children to adult sexual content in our libraries, in school textbooks and now in kids' programs on the ABC. One Nation will resist the dehumanisation of women through genderless language that erases the very concept of a mother and of a woman. We will not allow the family to be undermined. One Nation will resist the reduction of sex to a soul-destroying, meaningless transaction, the very thing Aldous Huxley warned us about in The Brave New World. One Nation will resist the war on farming that seeks to destroy family farms, rewild the bush and shift food production to corporate-owned, near-urban, intensive factories producing chemically-driven, food-like substances for everyday Australians to eat, while the elites gorge themselves on red meat and seafood. Something they did again last week at COP27 in Egypt, indulging in luxury while spreading poverty. Disgusting. We are one community, we are one nation, and parliaments belong to no one but the Australian people.
Now, I'm not here to plug any political party. Yeah, clap. I will applaud truth. We got to speak the truth, and we can't keep silent anymore, people, right? Because your kids' future is dependent on it. We are in a war. It's not one of bullets and ammo flying around. It's a technological, psychological warfare that wants economic control over people. All right? And we will win. We will win. I'll show you why. We have to be on the front foot, not the back foot. So when people ask me, are we heading for a recession? My concern is that they're on the back foot. When it comes to preparing for a recession, most people take a defensive approach. Folks, we got to be on the attack. See the opportunities, do it not for yourself if you can't, but do it for your kids, for this country's future. I love this country. All right? I love this. John Stuart Mill in 1867 in his inaugural address at the University of St Andrews said, "Let not anyone pacify his conscience by the delusion that he can do no harm if he takes no part and forms no opinion. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. He is not a good man who, without a protest, allows wrong to be committed in his name and with the means which he helps to supply, because he will not trouble himself to use his mind on the subject." You know what? The lucky country days are over. We have to rise up, Australia. I love this. There is a solution. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and will forgive their sin, and will heal their land. You can take that to the bank. That's the solution. And it starts in your heart. For all the fancy strategies I know about stock markets, asset protection, all this stuff, God always brings me back to the point of saying, Derek, I'm your supplier. I'm the one who gets you through. And I've been amazed how he operates in the supernatural. I have a team that I run, and we were waiting for this project, and I needed X amount of money, and I've been waiting for 4 weeks for this money. It just wasn't coming. I tell you, 5 minutes before I was going to go on that Zoom call and tell them, guys, we don't have the funds to do the next project, somebody knocks on my door with the exact and just a bit more of cash of what I needed to make the event happen. I've seen it time and time again. And if a guy who's a trader and all that and trades other people, we all have cash flow issues. Can we be honest? I said this to my mentor, Dave Hodgson. I was saying to him, we were going through some cash flows. He stopped me. He said, stop right there. He said, even big corporations go through cash flow issues. So don't be ashamed about it. But we have a rule in my family where we say, you cannot say we can't afford it. We just say, we're having a cash flow issue at the moment and it hasn't manifested yet. All right? Change your language. It's powerful. You prophesy into your future. Here's the end result. It's there in Scripture. Revelation 18:2-8, and he cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon, the great, is fallen, has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird. For all the nations are drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins and lest you receive of her plagues. I implore you, come out of that system. I implore you, come out of that system. Those who stay in that system will suffer. And that's why you're here today. Get out of that system. For her sins have reached to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Render her just as she rendered to you, and repay her double according to your works. What you sow is what you reap. And watch what these people, these globalists, have reaped. You're going to see a mighty victory soon. All right? You're going to see what they have sowed, it's going to backfire on them. These are the days where they are gallows that they have created for the others, they will hang on themselves. Watch it. All right? I've been watching it happen. I'm watching what's going on. And they will repay according to your works. And the cup which she has mixed double for her. In the measure that she glorified herself and lived luxury, in the same measure given her torment and sorrow. For she stays, it says in her heart, I sit as queen and am no widow, and will not see sorrow. Therefore, her plagues will come in one day. One day. This has been plotting and planning for decades. It was so well orchestrated. But folks, God only needs one day. It's like if I came up right now to this tablecloth and pulled it. Boom, all their plans are gone, just like that. That's all God needs. They are so vulnerable they don't even know it, but they are caught up in their pride and arrogance, and that is their downfall. They think they are gods. You heard it. They think they are gods.